This story is titled, I Found a Group Chat, where my fiancée called me a temporary supportive wallet. Her friend replied, Girl, milk it. I said nothing and just walked away, but later I had 53 missed calls from her. What's up, guys? Been lurking for years, but finally got a reason to post. Throwaway for obvious reasons. I'm Caleb, 32, and I work as a physical therapist at a sports rehab clinic. Nothing fancy, but I make decent money and have good benefits. I've always been the responsible type. Own my condo, decent savings, no crazy debt. Never thought that would make me a target, but here we are. Let me take you back to where this train wreck started. 2 years ago, I was volunteering at this charity 5K run for the clinic where I work. Typical Saturday morning thing. Handing out bananas, making sure no one passed out from dehydration, the usual heroics. That's when I first saw Eleanor. She was at the water station, but looking way too put together to be handing out paper cups. Hair perfect despite the humidity, makeup that somehow didn't melt in 85-degree heat, and wearing what looked like $200 leggings to a volunteer event. I remember thinking she looked like she was dressed for an Instagram photo op rather than actually helping, but hey, who was I to judge? Here's where I should have seen red flag 1. She approached me. Guys, in my 32 years on this planet, gorgeous women don't typically beeline for the average-looking dude wearing a baggy volunteer t-shirt. But my ego was like, nah man, you're a catch, and my brain went on vacation. Are you going to the after party? She asked, with this smile that honestly made me forget my own name for a second. I mumbled something about maybe stopping by, and somehow ended up spending the entire evening with her at this bar, watching her laugh at my painfully unfunny jokes and touching my arm every 2.5 minutes. Yes, I started counting after the 4th time because I couldn't believe it was happening. She told me she was 29 and transitioning careers from hospitality management to something called personal brand consulting. I nodded like I understood what that meant. Turns out it meant nothing. Absolutely nothing. Our first date was coffee that somehow morphed into dinner and then drinks. And I didn't even notice 7 hours had passed. Second date was at this pretentious gallery opening, where she seemed to know everyone, air kissing people and introducing me as Caleb. He works in sports medicine like I was some fancy doctor instead of the guy who helps weekend warriors stretch properly after they hurt themselves, trying to relive their high school glory days. Looking back now, I can see it was classic love bombing, but at the time I just thought I'd finally found someone who appreciated me. What a chump. Fast forward 6 months, and we're having brunch when she casually drops, My roommate Vera is absolutely insufferable. She used the last of my fancy face wash again and didn't replace it. And our landlord is raising the rent to criminal levels. Long pause. Meaningful look. Then, wouldn't it make sense for me to just move in with you? Your place is bigger anyway, and I'm there most nights. It did make sense. Logical, even. My place was nicer, closer to downtown, and we were spending almost every night together anyway. So I said yes, helped her move her approximately 87 boxes of clothes and makeup, and officially became a cohabitating couple. That's when the money stuff started. But it was so gradual I barely noticed. Like how a frog doesn't jump out of water if you heat it slowly, or whatever that saying is. First, it was rent day and, oh, I'm between clients right now, can I get you next month? Then it was, my car needs a new transmission. It's such bad timing with me starting my new business. Then, this certification course costs more than they advertised, but it's an investment in our future. Always something. Always temporary. Always with a promise to pay me back once things stabilized. Her business was always about to take off. The big client was always just around the corner. The collab was always going to happen next month. And I'm not stupid. At least I didn't think I was. I have a master's degree. I can explain complex musculoskeletal issues to patients. I can do my own taxes. But somehow I couldn't see what was happening right in front of me. I told myself relationships have ups and downs. Sometimes one person carries more financial weight while the other is getting established. I was investing in us. And Eleanor was always so appreciative, making elaborate thank you dinners or surprising me with concert tickets to see bands I'd mentioned once. I later realized I was actually paying for all this through our joint expenses. She was essentially giving me gifts with my own money. Galaxy brain move. After a year together, I proposed. Got down on one knee at this fancy restaurant where appetizers cost more than an entire meal should. Had the ring in my pocket all night, almost lost it twice, sweated through my nice shirt, and finally managed to ask without tripping over my words too badly. She cried, posted like 20 stories about it within the hour, changed her profile pic to her hand with the ring while we were still having dessert. I thought I'd sealed the deal on my happily ever after. Once we got engaged, Things escalated faster than my gym clients trying to get fit for their beach vacation with only 2 weeks of training. Suddenly, we needed a wedding planner, who just happened to be her college friend Jade, who had exactly 0 successful weddings under her belt, but charged us double what experienced planners quoted. She gets my vision, Eleanor explained when I questioned the cost. Plus, we're supporting a woman-owned business? Ah yes, nothing says female empowerment quite like overcharging your friend's fiancé. Girl power. Next came the venue hunt. Every place I suggested was summarily rejected for not being Instagram-worthy. I didn't even know that was a category venues could fall into. Apparently, places are rated on a scale from "no one will like my photos" to "will definitely make my followers jealous." We ended up booking this renovated industrial warehouse that cost roughly the same as a semester of college. It had character, and the perfect lighting, and amazing backdrops for the photo booth. It also had no air conditioning, and was next to an actual working factory. But hey, aesthetic is everything. Then came the ring upgrade drama. The original engagement ring that I spent 3 months saving for? Suddenly inadequate. Babe, the stone doesn't catch the light right in photos, she told me one evening, casually, like she was commenting on the weather. Madison's fiancé got her a ring from this amazing jeweler, and he does custom settings that are super photogenic. Madison, by the way, was her content creator friend, whose fiancé was a literal heir to a hotel fortune. But sure, let's compare ring budgets. Meanwhile, Eleanor's personal brand consulting business was about as successful as a fish climbing a tree. From what I could tell, it consisted entirely of her posting selfies and outfits she couldn't afford, and giving advice to her handful of followers about aligning your chakras with your business goals. Her workday routine was fascinating to witness. She'd spend 2 hours on makeup and hair, take about 300 photos in different poses around our apartment, and sometimes at trendy cafes where she'd buy 1-7 latte and occupy a table for 4 hours. Then spend the rest of the day editing one picture and writing captions like, "Hustle culture is toxic. Choose alignment over achievement." And then she'd call it working. I wish my job let me count choosing a filter as billable hours. By this point, I was covering everything: rent, utilities, her car payment for a car nicer than mine, insurance, groceries, her phone bill, even her student loans some months. She'd contribute occasionally, just enough to maintain the illusion that we were partners and not a guy supporting his adult dependent. "It'll all even out once I land this big client," she'd say at least once a week. Or, "I'm investing in myself now so we can have a better future." Always we when it came to future money. Always me when it came to current expenses. One month, she actually transferred me $200 for her share of rent, then the same day asked for $350 for emergency Botox because she had a really important meeting coming up. Math isn't mathing. The wedding planning was when she really ramped up the spending to levels that would make a Kardashian financial advisor nervous. We're talking $7,000 for a dress. It's actually cheap for a designer. Some of these go for $15,000. $3,000 for a photographer. He shoots for celebrities, Caleb. He did Madison's dog's birthday party. And $15,000 for the aforementioned oven-like warehouse venue. It's actually a steal for that location. They book up 2 years in advance. Every time I'd bring up something ridiculous like a budget or financial reality, she'd deploy her secret weapon, the tears. "I thought you wanted me to have my dream day," she'd say, eyes already welling up on cue. Or the classic, "I grew up with nothing. I just want this one thing to be special," as if a normal-priced venue would somehow make our marriage less valid. And like the absolute sucker I was, I'd cave every single time. I was paying for all this by draining my savings account faster than a bathtub with the plug pulled out. My credit score was watching all this from the sidelines like, "Bro, what are you doing?" But I kept telling myself it was temporary, that after the wedding things would calm down, that this was just pre-wedding stress making her act this way. By the time we were 6 months from the wedding date, I had exactly $842 in savings, down from nearly $30,000 when we met, and credit card debt that made my stomach hurt when I thought about it. Meanwhile, Eleanor had a closet full of new clothes that still had tags on them and was constantly talking about the Cabo trip her bridesmaids were planning. "It's tradition for the bride's friends to treat her to a trip," she explained when I asked about the cost. "I just need spending money. Just spending money. For a 5-day trip to a luxury resort? Sure, no problem. Let me just check my money tree out back and see if it's bearing fruit yet." And I kid you not, all that time I told myself that it was just a rough patch, that's all. A necessary sacrifice to get to that happily ever after everyone talks about. I'd make it work. I always did. And if it meant taking on extra shifts, putting my own plans on hold, or saying no to nights out with friends to make sure Eleanor's dreams stayed on track, then fine. It would all be worth it in the end. Or at least, that's what I kept telling myself. But then something happened opened my eye on Eleanor's true colors. It started with an Instagram DM that popped up while I was scrolling through mindless reels one night. Eleanor was at her Women in Business mixer, which as far as I could tell involved drinking pink cocktails and taking photos for Instagram. The message was from someone named Tiffany. "You don't know me, but I'm friends with Mackenzie who knows Eleanor. I think you should know what she says about you behind your back." My first thought was classic internet drama. Some rando trying to stir the pot or get attention. I almost blocked her immediately, but curiosity got to me, and I responded with a non-committal, "What are you talking about?" Her response came with receipts. Screenshots of a group chat called Bride Tribe Goals, where Eleanor was talking about me. And not in the "my fiancé is so supportive" way. Oh no. Right there in pixelated glory was a message from my beloved. "Caleb is basically my emotionally supportive wallet at this point, LOL." My stomach twisted. That's what my fiancé, the woman I was planning to spend my life with, called me. A wallet. With a laughing emoji. Like it was hilarious that I was working extra shifts at the clinic to pay for her dream wedding while she was doing whatever it is she did all day. I stared at that screenshot for what felt like hours, my brain refusing to process what I was seeing. Maybe it was photoshopped? Maybe someone was setting her up? Maybe there was context I was missing? Tiffany must have sensed my disbelief because she followed up. "There's more. A lot more. She talks about you like this all the time in the group." I didn't want to believe it, so I decided to do some digging myself. The next morning, while Eleanor was taking her customary 45-minute shower, our water bill was astronomical, I grabbed her iPad from the nightstand. She always left it unlocked because, in her words, passwords are too hard to remember. I opened messages, and there it was. The Bride Tribe Goals group chat with Mackenzie, Jade, and a couple other women I'd met briefly at various engagement celebrations. What I found was like watching a masterclass in manipulation. Eleanor wasn't just talking smack about me. She was actively teaching her friends how to extract maximum financial benefit from their boyfriends and fiancés. Some choice quotes from my loving partner. "Always create a crisis before asking for money. They're more likely to give when they think it's an emergency. Car troubles are my go-to. Men think they understand cars better than we do, LOL. Don't ask for small stuff. Go big. They question the small expenses more than the big ones. Caleb will complain about a $200 dinner, but didn't blink when I needed $2,000 for that business conference in Miami. If he hesitates, just mention how your ex would have done it no problem. Works every time. I don't even have an ex who was good with money. But Caleb doesn't know that, and her friends ate it up like it was gospel. One of them literally said, "Girl, milk it. Men want to provide. You just have to make them think it's their idea." Milk it! As if I was some sort of cash cow just standing there waiting to be drained dry. And also one of them said, "I tried the car thing with Brad and he sent me $600, no questions asked. How did you get him to pay for your sister's car? I need details." It went on and on. Pages and pages of them discussing their boyfriends and fiancés like walking, talking ATMs. Planning how to get engagement rings upgraded, how to justify expensive purchases, how to hide shopping bags so he doesn't realize how much you're actually buying. Eleanor had apparently become some kind of twisted financial guru to her friend group, the "how to bleed your man dry" whisperer. But the absolute knife to the heart was when they started talking about their upcoming girls' trip to Cabo. "Can't wait for our bestie getaway. Just us girls celebrating before the wedding chaos," Mackenzie wrote. "I told Jason it was a bridal wellness retreat." "LMO," Jade replied, with the crying laughing emoji. Then Eleanor. "Caleb's paying for my part. He doesn't even know it yet." And then I read a text made me nearly drop the iPad. "After we get back from Cabo, I'm thinking another year max before I pivot," Eleanor wrote. Mackenzie. "You think you can get him to buy property first? Get your name on it?" Eleanor. "Working on it. Playing the long game." Jade. "My cousin's divorce settlement was insane. Just saying." Eleanor. "That's the goal, sis. Gotta secure the bag." I felt physically sick, like I might actually throw up on our overpriced area rug that I paid for. 2 years of my life, most of my savings, and thousands in credit card debt, all because I thought I'd found someone who actually loved me. But nope, I was just a financial plan, a long-term investment with a planned exit strategy. I sat there on our bed, surrounded by the life we'd supposedly built together, and tried to process the complete and utter betrayal I was feeling. All those times she'd told me she loved me, all those future plans, the kids we talked about having someday. Was any of it real? I screenshotted everything, every single message, emailed them to myself, backed them up to the cloud, and for good measure took photos of the screen with my own phone. Then I closed the iPad, carefully placed it back exactly where I found it, and went to the kitchen to make dinner like nothing had happened. Because for the first time since I met her, I had the advantage. She didn't know that I knew. When she finally emerged from the bathroom amid a cloud of expensive bath products I'd paid for, I smiled and asked how her shower was. Amazing, she said, kissing my cheek. You're the best for getting that rainfall shower head installed. Oh, and can we talk about my maid of honor's bachelorette party next month? I need a new outfit. Sure thing, babe, I replied, calmly chopping vegetables. Whatever you need. If she noticed anything off about my tone, she didn't show it. Probably because she was already scrolling through her phone, no doubt messaging her friends about how to extract more cash from her resident ATM. Little did she know, this ATM was about to go permanently out of service. So the next morning, I acted completely normal. Kissed her goodbye, told her I loved her, made her favorite smoothie before she headed out to a content creation workshop, which based on her Instagram stories, looked suspiciously like brunch with her friends. But inside my head, I was in full strategic planning mode. First thing I did on my lunch break was visit a completely different bank from the one we used. Not just a different branch, a whole different banking institution where there was zero chance of any kind of information leakage. I opened a new account, requested no paper statements, and set up online banking with a password that wasn't some variation of our anniversary or her dog's name. I transferred most of my money there, leaving just enough in our joint account to avoid suspicion. About 2 weeks' worth of normal expenses, so she wouldn't suddenly find herself unable to buy her daily $7 latte and start asking questions. Then, I called my buddy Phil, who's been my friend since college, and also happens to be a lawyer. Not a divorce lawyer, he does mostly corporate stuff, but he knows enough about the legal system to give advice. I had to swear him to absolute secrecy before telling him what was going on. "Dude," was all he said after I showed him the screenshots. Then he bought me a drink and helped me create what he called a strategic dissolution of cohabitation. Lawyer speak for how to dump your gold-digging fiancé without getting yourself into legal trouble. Turns out, since we weren't married yet, things were a lot simpler than they could have been. No actual divorce proceedings to worry about. The ring was technically a gift so she could keep it, though I had plans for that too. The main concerns were the lease, any joint property, and making sure she couldn't claim I'd promised to support her financially. Then I did something I'm not proud of, but desperate times and all that. I went through Eleanor's physical planner while she was at networking drinks. She kept this fancy leather-bound planner where she wrote down all her appointments and plans because apparently writing things by hand manifests them into reality better than using a digital calendar like normal people in 2025. What I found was gold. All the details about this Cabo trip with her friends. According to what I found, they were planning this luxurious 5-day getaway at some all-inclusive resort called Serena del Mar. We're talking spa treatments, private cabanas, yacht day, personal cabana boys, everything. The kind of place that doesn't even list prices on their website because if you have to ask, you can't afford it. The best part? She'd been dropping hints for weeks that she needed wedding stress relief, and her friends were planning something special. Clearly, I was supposed to offer to pay for her portion without her directly asking. Classic Eleanor move. Make me think it was my idea so she could later say, "But you wanted to pay for it." So I decided to use it against her. The plan started forming in my head. A beautiful, petty plan. That weekend, I acted all excited. "Babe, I heard through the grapevine about the girls' trip to Cabo. I want to cover your part as an early wedding gift." Her eyes lit up like a kid on Christmas morning. "OMG, that would be amazing. Are you sure? It's kind of expensive." She said, expensive, in that way people do when they want you to say, "Money is no object for you, my precious angel." "Absolutely," I replied, with what I hoped was convincing enthusiasm. "You deserve it. Just send me the details and I'll take care of everything." She practically squealed, hugged me tight, then immediately grabbed her phone. "I have to tell the girls." "I bet you do," I thought. "Go ahead and tell them how your emotionally supportive wallet came through again." Over the next 2 weeks, I pretended to plan her portion of this dream vacation. Had her forward me all the booking info, asked about her flight preferences, even had her create a wish list of spa treatments. I was playing the role of devoted fiancé while secretly executing my real plan. I called my landlord, I own my condo, and explained I had a family member who needed a place to stay for a few months. Got permission to sublet to my cousin Devin. Started slowly moving my most important stuff to a storage unit when Eleanor was at her personal training sessions. I was careful to only take things she wouldn't immediately notice: the spare PlayStation in the closet, winter clothes, it was summer, important documents, family heirlooms, and my prized collection of sports memorabilia. She never went into my spaces anyway. My desk drawers, my side of the closet, or the storage cabinets were all beneath her notice, unless she needed something. Meanwhile, I documented everything I'd paid for since she moved in. Every bill, every emergency, every loan. Every time she promised to pay me back next month. It added up to over $47,000 in 18 months, not including the engagement ring or wedding deposits. Made copies of all her messages about me being her wallet and her plans to pivot after the wedding. Then came the most satisfying part of the plan. I made some adjustments to her travel booking, not canceling it, just modifying it a bit. I did extensive research and found a wellness retreat about 3 hours away from Cabo proper called. Their website was full of words like transformative, mindful, and digital detox. The photos showed smiling people in loose-fitting clothes doing yoga at dawn and eating what appeared to be bowls of grass. Instead of the luxury all-inclusive resort with her friends, I booked her at this place. No Wi-Fi, shared rooms with strangers, 5 a.m. meditation sessions, mandatory digital detox, aka no phones, and a strict no alcohol policy. Their daily schedule included mindful silence periods, LOL, and group emotional processing sessions. The cherry on top? It was actually more expensive than her portion of the resort would have been, and paid in full, non-refundable. I made sure her flight would still land in Cabo, but she'd have a pre-arranged shuttle to take her to the retreat instead of the resort where her friends would be staying. The shuttle company confirmed they'd have a sign with her name on it, and everything. I even called the retreat to make special arrangements. My fiancé is having serious pre-wedding anxiety and phone addiction issues, I told them in my most concerned voice. She might try to leave early, or be resistant to the program at first. It's really important she completes the full experience. The wellness coordinator assured me they were used to resistant participants and had a strict no-refund policy for those who left early. Perfect. Lastly, I compiled everything: the chat screenshots, the expense records, the evidence of her manipulation, into slides I titled, "From Your Emotionally Supportive Wallet." Saved it to a flash drive and printed a hard copy. I planned to leave it for her to find after she'd already left for the trip. Timing was everything. The trap was set. All I had to do now was wait for her to walk right into it. So the day before her trip, I was the perfect fiancé. Helped her pack, double-checked her travel documents, even got her a new pair of designer sunglasses for the beach, knowing full well there would be no beach time where she was going. I was so attentive she actually looked at me suspiciously at one point. "What's gotten into you?" she asked while trying to cram her sixth bikini into an already overstuffed suitcase. "Just excited for you," I said with a genuine smile. For once, I wasn't even lying. "I put all your booking confirmations in this envelope," I told her, handing her a sealed travel document wallet with the resort's logo that I'd carefully photoshopped to say Wellness Experience. I told her, "Don't lose it. It has your resort info, spa reservations, everything." What it actually contained was a confirmation for the wellness retreat, a map showing how far it was from her friend's resort, a brochure highlighting the digital detox policy, and a note that simply said, "The wallet is closed, don't come home." I'd also included a printed screenshot of her emotionally supportive wallet message, just so there'd be no confusion about why this was happening. "I won't peek until I get there," she said, stuffing the envelope in her carry-on without even looking at it. "I want to be surprised by all the amazing things you've planned." "Oh, you'll be surprised, all right." That night, she stayed up late doing a farewell dinner with her bridesmaids. When she came home tipsy and handsy, talking about how she was going to miss me so much, I almost felt bad. Then I remembered her planning her pivot away from me, and suddenly found it very easy to smile and play along. The morning of her flight, I drove her to the airport, carried her bags, kissed her goodbye at security. "Have the best time, babe," I said. "You deserve it." "I love you so much," she replied. "Thank you for this." I smiled. "Don't thank me yet." She thought I was being cute. I was being literal. I watched her disappear through security, then went straight to my car and called my buddy Phil. "She's in the air in an hour," I said. "Operation Freedom is a go." Look, I know that's super cheesy, but Phil insisted we needed a mission name, and I was too tired to argue. I had about 5 days before she'd be back, and I needed to be long gone by then. Once I was sure her flight had taken off, I tracked it on an app, I went home and got to work. First, I changed the locks, cleared with my landlord first, then systematically packed up all her stuff into boxes. Clothes, makeup, shoes, jewelry, all of it. I wasn't trying to steal anything, just making a clean break. I carefully labeled everything and arranged for it all to be moved to a storage unit I'd rented in her name. I left the receipt and key with the building manager, along with a note explaining she could access it when she got back. On top of one of the boxes containing her personal items, I left the engagement ring nestled in its original box. I wrote a note that said, "I was going to be your husband, not your investor. Good luck finding your next wallet." With her stuff taken care of, I focused on my own exit. My cousin Devin moved in temporarily to watch the place and make sure Eleanor didn't somehow break in and trash it when she got back. I relocated to an Airbnb across town that I'd booked under Phil's name, just in case she somehow tracked down my credit card statements. Then I went completely dark, changed my number, deactivated all social media, told my work I needed personal time off due to a family emergency, basically disappeared. According to the plan I'd set up with Phil, Eleanor wouldn't be able to access our apartment when she got back. Her key wouldn't work, and the doorman had instructions not to let her in. All her stuff would be in the storage unit I'd paid for 1 month in advance. She'd get the key and access info from the building manager. I'd also left a formal letter breaking off the engagement, just to make it officially clear we were done. Phil said this was important from a legal standpoint, in case she tried to claim I'd abandoned her or something. The last thing I did before going off-grid was set up an email autoresponder that simply said, "I'm no longer available as an emotionally supportive wallet. All transactions have been permanently declined." Then I settled in at the Airbnb with some takeout and waited for the fireworks to begin. I wasn't interested in watching her meltdown in real time, but I had asked Tiffany, the one who'd tipped me off initially, to let me know when the chaos started. She seemed to genuinely feel bad about Eleanor's behavior and had agreed to be my eyes and ears. I knew exactly when Eleanor would land in Cabo. I knew approximately when she'd get the shuttle. I even knew roughly when she'd arrive at Spirit Canyon and discover she wasn't joining her friends at the beach resort. What I couldn't predict was just how spectacularly everything would unravel. The first text from Tiffany came about 4 hours after Eleanor's plane landed. "It's happening. She just called Mackenzie freaking out about being at the wrong place." I smiled and turned off my phone. The satisfaction I felt was almost worth every penny she'd scammed out of me. Clean break, no confrontation, no drama from my end, just gone. The rest of the day was weirdly peaceful. For the first time in what felt like forever, I wasn't stressing about bills or watching my savings drain away, while Eleanor spent like we were Kardashians. I spent the afternoon working out, grabbed takeout from my favorite spot, and even started binge-watching a show I'd been putting off for months. I kept my phone off the whole time, not even tempted to check if she'd tried to call. I figured if she was desperate enough to reach me, she'd find a way. But then, after a week, I heard about it all. And man, it was glorious. According to Tiffany, who turned out to be the only decent one in that group, Eleanor had a complete meltdown at the airport. She'd opened the envelope while waiting for her luxury shuttle and discovered she wasn't going to Serena Del Mar with her friends. Apparently, she screamed so loud in the terminal that airport security came over. Then she called her friends panicking about how there must be a mistake, how she was supposed to be at the resort with them, how she couldn't possibly stay at a hippie prison camp. But when she tried to book a room at their resort, everything was full. High season in Cabo, no vacancies anywhere decent within her price range, and the wellness retreat she'd been booked at wouldn't refund her money, just like the non-refundable policy clearly stated in the confirmation I'd helpfully printed for her. She was stuck. Either forfeit the whole trip and fly home early, or suck it up and do the retreat. She chose option 3, blow up my phone. I didn't see the messages until weeks later, when I finally got a new phone and recovered my old number. There were over 200 texts and 50 voicemails, evolving from confusion to anger to threats to bargaining to sobbing. "There must be some mistake with my booking? Answer your phone right now. WTF is this place you sent me to? I'm calling my dad, he's going to sue you. Please, Caleb. I'm sorry, whatever I did, I'm sorry. How could you do this to me? The people here don't even have conditioner." That last one still makes me laugh. Of all the complaints, that's what got to her. Then, after the first day, when she apparently figured out why this happened, the tone completely changed. "Caleb, you're blowing this way out of proportion. Those messages were jokes. Everyone talks like that with their girlfriends. It doesn't mean anything. The wallet thing was just girl humor. You wouldn't understand. We were all just playing around. None of us meant that stuff. Classic gaslighting 101. Suddenly, I'm the unreasonable one for being upset about my fiancé literally planning how to drain my bank account and leave me. Yeah, hilarious girl humor. I must have missed the punchline while I was working overtime to pay for her lifestyle. Then she tried calling my parents, my work, My friends. Nobody knew where I was, and the ones who did weren't telling. Phil had briefed everyone who needed to know with just enough information to make them firmly on my side. Meanwhile, I was staying at my Airbnb, starting over. I'd taken a 2-week leave from work, using some of my saved vacation time to decompress and process everything. I bought some new clothes, got a haircut, started working out daily at a gym across town, and generally focused on rebuilding myself. From what I heard through Phil, who heard from the building manager, Eleanor eventually returned from her retreat to find herself locked out of my condo. When she finally got her stuff from storage and saw all the evidence I'd left, she completely lost it. Screamed so loud in the storage facility that management called security. The best part? According to Tiffany, Spirit Canyon actually wouldn't let Eleanor leave early. When she tried to check out after the first night, they reminded her of their strict 5-day minimum policy and the non-refundable payment. They also refused to give her phone back until the digital detox period was complete, as per the special instructions from her caring fiancé. So she was stuck there for the full 5 days, doing sunrise yoga and emotional processing circles, while her friends were posting bikini pics from the beach resort. When she finally got her phone back and saw my email auto-response about the wallet being closed, she apparently threw her phone into a cactus. I'm not sure if that's literally true or Tiffany's embellishment, but I choose to believe it because it makes me happy. Eleanor tried to salvage her reputation by posting some BS on Instagram about escaping a controlling relationship and how her spiritual journey in Mexico opened her eyes. Posted a bunch of stolen photos from the retreat website like she'd actually participated instead of spending the whole time trying to get a signal to call me. But the truth had a way of coming out. Somehow her friends found out about all her manipulation tactics and the things she'd said about them in private messages. Apparently, I wasn't the only one who got screenshots. The bride tribe imploded spectacularly. Mackenzie and Jade dropped her completely when they discovered what she'd been saying about them behind their backs. Turns out Eleanor had called Mackenzie basic and desperate, and said Jade's boyfriend was one ugly haircut away from being undateable in private messages. Her other friends started distancing themselves. The wedding vendors she'd booked started asking about deposits, and suddenly there was no wallet to handle it. Her social media following actually dropped by almost 1,000 people when she couldn't maintain her posting schedule of perfectly lit, obviously staged, candid moments. And yeah, it's been months now. I'm dating again. Cautiously. My credit score is recovering nicely. I've got a new rule. No joint accounts until there's a ring on it, and even then, we keep our finances mostly separate. I've moved to a different condo in a building with better security, and only 3 people have my new address. My savings account is slowly being rebuilt. I blocked Eleanor on every platform imaginable, and I've never responded to a single message from her since the day I dropped her at the airport. As for Eleanor, I heard through Phil that she moved to Phoenix to live with her sister, started a TikTok account about healing from narcissistic relationships, has a highlight reel called My Escape Story. The irony would be funny if it wasn't so pathetic. Last week, I got a text from an unknown number. I miss you. I'm sorry. I've changed. I didn't need to ask who it was. I just deleted it and poured myself a fresh coffee. Because here's what I learned from all this. When someone shows you from the start they are gold diggers rather than a partner, believe them the first time, and close that account before they drain you dry. Some people don't deserve closure. Some people just deserve consequences. And my wallet? It's doing just fine without her.